My biggest regret, if I had one, if I had a time machine, would be...
Welcome to Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples, a channel of conversation and board games.
Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Today on the channel, we are going to be checking out a family weight legacy game from Renier Knizia. Of course, Renier Knizia, one of the most prolific game designers of all time, and so he... few years ago designed My City, a tile-laying legacy game for 2 to 4 players that you play over 24 episodes. So this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so no need to worry that I'm going to spoil any of the contents that is in the envelopes that are in the game. But I want to show you an overview as to how to play the game so you can get a little bit of feel of the mechanics. Final forecast coming up first. Cue the thunder. So the radar overview for My City, a legacy game from Renier Knizia. I am going to not spoil anything in this legacy game. You play this game over 24 episodes consisting of 8 different chapters. You will be opening up different envelopes, adding and putting stickers on your boards. They're going to look very, very different by the end. You get to the prosperity end of chapter 8. You're going to have a wildly different looking board, and each player is going to have a different looking board. This is what it looks like at the beginning. I've done a 2-player campaign. This plays 2 to 4, so we didn't use 2 of the boards, so then that's why I can show you how you play this game. Each player gets 24 buildings in 3 different colors, containing 8 different shapes, and then you put a little scoring marker on the 10 point. You start with 10 points, and then you shuffle up this deck of cards representing all of these buildings, and then you're ready to go. I will say this is kind of the bare bones overview as to how the general mechanics work in this game. And like I said, as you keep adding and opening up envelopes and adding content, rules change, scoring conditions change, and so I'm not going to spoil any of that. But how does it go? You flip over the top card on this deck, and everybody then would place that building somewhere on their board. There's a few restrictions. You must always, at the beginning of the game, place your building touching the river. You can never go across the river, but you have to be touching the building, or your building has to be touching the river. Let's say I do that. I covered up a rock, which is good because at the end of when all these cards are gone and the game is over, the round is over, you would get -2 points for every set of rocks that are showing. So there's 2 per section here, so that's -2. There's also trees. You don't want to cover up trees because you get +1 point for each tree, or for each tree you get 1 point. So then we flip over another one, and you have to then place that tile touching a tile that's already been placed. So it doesn't have to be the previous one, but it has to be just a tile that has been placed. So you keep going, and you try to not cover up trees, and you try to cover up rocks, and you may get to a point where you're like, I don't want to place a tile. At that point, you flip over the tile and you kind of pass your turn. Again, everybody's doing this simultaneously. You pass your turn. Any tile that you cannot place or you do not want to place, you then lose 1 point. So we keep going, and let's just do that. The round ends when you get through this deck, but sometimes you will not get through the deck because the way you've placed your tiles, you physically cannot put any more pieces down. At that point, if you get to that point and you want to kind of bow out of that current episode, you would then just say, I'm out. You flip over the tile. You can't place any further tiles for the rest of that episode, and then you just wait until the end of the episode. At that point, you count up all your trees that are showing. You get points for those, minus points for all the rocks that are showing, and then you move on to the next episode, which I'm not going to spoil anything further. Like I said, 8 different episodes that you will be going through. Rules show you how you can play an eternal game, after you've done the whole campaign. And so, yes, that is in a nutshell how you play My City. Now, let's check out the final forecast. So the final forecast for My City, a legacy tile-laying game from Renier Knizia. As you saw in the radar overview, the mechanics of this are pretty simple. You're flipping over cards, and you are placing tiles down. I'm just going to say the bottom line on this one. This is like a 90% chance of meeples. The rules are pretty simple, but they slowly, over time, get a little bit more complex as you open up those envelopes, and it changes the way things score. So maybe the rules don't change a little bit. There are rules changes, but nothing that's like, oh man, this is, I don't know what I'm doing now. No, as you play this game, it cements this whole framework. As you keep opening up envelopes, it just adds more and more variance as to way to score, where you can place certain tiles, things like that. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything else, but overall the rules are pretty simple. And of course, it has the rules for an eternal game. So if you finish the whole legacy aspect of it and you just want to play just that puzzly tiling game, there are ways to do it, and the rules are in the back of the rulebook. I didn't show you that because I didn't want to spoil anything. So that's that. Aesthetics of this, it's all right. It's just player boards, all the tiles. They're just standard shapes, colors. It's all right. It's not like this is one of the most like prettiest games on a table, but it is what it is. It's functional, and so take it for what it is. Ingenuity. What does this bring? Is this creating anything new, bringing anything new? Well, it's a tile-laying game, and I will say this. Often in tile-laying games, you can take your tile that you're trying to place down, and you can flip it, much like a patchwork or whistle mounted. I'm trying to think of some other games that have tile laying, but most often you can flip the tiles. In this one you can't, because on the back of all these tiles shows the logo of which player board it goes to, so you can't flip these. So that, I will say, was like, man, you got to situations where you're like, if I could just flip this tile to the other side, it would help me out so much, but you can't do that. And I think that just brings that much more tension in the game. I will say also, this, for the first 12 rounds of the game, you're pretty much playing multiplayer solitaire. So everybody's placing their tiles down as you go, and it doesn't really matter what you're covering up. Like, it does. Maybe it happens a little bit before the 12th game, but the first number of games, there isn't urgency into where to place your tiles in the sense of in a race. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, and that's not a bad thing, but deeper you go into the whole game, you really got to then focus on what your other opponents are, where they're putting their tiles. And at the same time, their board is going to look way different than yours, so you can't go by just that. So I like that tension. It just kind of ratchets it up as it goes. I will say also, when you open up a new envelope, I highly, highly, highly suggest looking at the rules for all 3 episodes. So you open up an envelope, it's got the rules for rule set for the next 3 games that you're going to play. I highly suggest looking at the rules and know what's coming up ahead, because you can kind of put stickers on your board that might mess you up. And I've seen it online where there's been instances from some people, they've put certain stickers in certain places that they weren't allowed to play anything. And so it kind of like ruined a couple games. I can't spoil it without, I can't say anything more without spoiling it. My biggest regret, if I had one, if I had a time machine, would be that I would wait until 3 years from now, until our kids are 10 and 13, and we could do it collectively, the 4 of us as a family, because this was an absolute gem. of a legacy game for us. So I highly recommend it. We cannot wait for My Island to come out because I'm just chomping at the bit to see more of this fun tile-laying, puzzly game from Renier Knizia to see what My Island is all about. So, as mentioned, 90% Chance of Meeples, absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it. If you're liking tile-laying games, legacy games, family weight games, it's just fantastic. 90% my city. My name is Brent. Check us out on Facebook, Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples. Remember, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a Chance of Meeples.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember to grab your umbrella because the forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.